Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto's pain turned him into the villain of the Shinobi world? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. That night Kakashi headed out to one of the bars. It was sort of an informal tradition for him. Entering the smoke-filled bar he couldn't help but chuckle silently at the mission he was leading. He'd come of age in the midst of the Third Great Ninja War. When the village had been fighting on multiple fronts and was short of people. He'd been assigned to his team and his beloved sensei. Back then there was no time to take it easy with D ranks, and training at the academy had been strictly geared towards readying you for life and death combat. Minato had broken them in with short-range patrols, and before long taken them out on real missions. He was a veteran with over 50 enemy kills by the time the war ended. Then he'd gone into the Anbu and become a Black Ops legend. His last mission before taking on his team had involved blowing up a drug lab in Nagamo and exterminating the gang involved. In Fire Country, if the local police faced a difficult problem, putting in a quiet call to the Hokage was always an option. Navigating the crowded bar, he spotted a friendly face and was waved over to a little table. "Kakashi, you hear the latest?" Asuma asked as he sat down. The second he heard his friend's grim tone, he knew it had to be bad. "No, what?" "Renji and his squad," Asuma began as he lit a fresh cigarette. "They're all gone, KIA. Kakashi grimaced. 4 new names were going on the memorial stone. He tried to picture Renji. A redhead with tattoos on his face and neck. The Chunin had only been promoted by the Hokage a year or so ago and was in his early 20s. He didn't know any of the genin he'd been in charge of. What happened? It's pretty damn rare to lose a whole squad except in wartime. Was he on some sort of special mission? Asuma shook his head. That's the weird thing. They were in Wave protecting some bridge builder from bandits. Just a typical escort mission. So what happened? No one knows. The Hokages sent out an Anbu squad to investigate. There were no survivors and so no witnesses. All that's known so far is they and the client were ambushed along a road near his home. Bandits? Kakashi asked, sounding doubtful. Any Chunin was a match for at least 50 well-armed men. Only a very large, or very desperate, group of outlaws would attack a squad of ninja. Doesn't look it, Asuma said and took a long drag from his cig. There were no other bodies at the scene. Kakashi nodded. Even if they were somehow caught by surprise and overwhelmed, they would not have gone down easy. Ninja then, maybe Nuke Nin. Asuma nodded. That's the assumption, but whoever did this was smart enough not to leave a calling card. We may never find out who was responsible. Kakashi frowned but did not disagree. Wave Country was largely swamp. By the time the Anbu arrived to investigate, most of the physical evidence would be gone. Whoever did this would likely get away with it. As he drank with his friend, Kakashi wondered what exactly had happened to Renji. Had they been targeted by people with a grudge against Konoha? Kami knew there were plenty of those out there. Had they somehow just run across the wrong people at the wrong time? Had they been attacked by a group targeting their client? That seemed the least likely. Rogue ninja were expensive. Who in their right mind would spend that kind of money to kill a bridge builder? In any case, he took the news as a reminder that any mission could turn lethal at any time. He would make sure to keep an eye on his kids. As Naruto locked the door to his apartment and headed to the gate, he had a huge smile on his face. Not one of the usual smiles that covered up the hurt and rage he felt. This was an honest smile. He was excited at the prospect of his first real mission and of the idea of actually leaving Konoha for a while. When he'd been a child, he'd often thought of running away. Of escaping this horrible place and all its cruelties. Some nights he would dream about it. The idea would fill him with hope and excitement. But he was always afraid too. He didn't know what was out there beyond the village walls. What if the people there all hated him too? And what if he left and never saw Gigi again? The idea of leaving forever at once tempted and tormented him. Arriving 20 minutes early, he was glad to see he was the first to get there. The 50-foot-high gates were open, of course. Though it was early morning, there was light traffic as carts and people on foot came and went. For a ninja village, it was surprisingly easy for people to come and go. Merchants arrived all the time with the goods people demanded, local farmers came with the food people needed, and the civilians were free to come and go as they pleased. Being a ninja, he was not. He could not leave the village unless he was on a mission from the Hokage. Standing there, his heart was pounding. He could see the road that seemed to stretch out forever. He had no idea what Hokkaido was like, but for him it seemed as foreign and exotic a place as Iwa or Suna. It was somewhere else, somewhere different, and the idea of going there and leaving this place for a time had him grinning from ear to ear. About 10 minutes later, Sasuke and Sakura arrived together. Naruto had no doubt they had run into one another on the way here, and Sakura had decided to tag along. Amazingly, Sasuke actually looked to be in a good mood for once. He at least was tolerant, and Sakura walked at his side. She was beaming, a content look was on her face, and her eyes locked onto Sasuke. Enjoy it while you can, you dumb fangirl. His good moods never last long. When he'd finally given up on her, he'd realized just how pathetic he must have appeared to everyone. He'd treated her the same way she treated Sasuke. He'd made a fool of himself again and again in the desperate hope that somehow or other it would win him some approval. It never did, of course, and the more he'd done for her, the worse she'd treated him. It was amusing to see the same happen to her now. He could already tell what would happen. She would read too much into the fact he was willing to tolerate her right now. She would get her hopes up. Then later, when he was back to his same old moody self, she would be crushed to learn nothing had changed. For someone who's supposed to be so smart, she sure is a moron when it comes to him. Then again, I wasn't any better. In an odd way, he owed Mizuki his thanks. No matter how painful the experience, he had finally learned the truth. Not just about what he was, but that he could never hope to win people over. No matter how much it hurt, it was still better to face the truth and deal with things as they were, not as you wanted them to be. I guess that's part of growing up. He kept his thoughts well hidden and greeted his teammates. The three of them settled in for what they expected to be a 2-hour wait. But to the amazement of the entire team, Kakashi came strolling along, book in hand, at exactly 8. You're actually on time, Sakura cried out. A mission from the Hokage is serious business and needs to be treated as such, Kakashi said pleasantly. Does that mean meeting us each day doesn't count as serious business? Naruto asked. That's right, Kakashi said while reading his little orange book. If looks could kill, he'd have burst into flames there and then. All right team, let's go. 2 days to get there, 3 for the festival, and 2 to come back. He walked out of the village with his team trailing him. Try not to get lost or killed, okay? The 2-day trip there went by without incident. Kakashi had them sleep in their sleeping bags while keeping a watch. Naruto had offered to have his clones take care of all that, but as with their D ranks, Kakashi insisted that everyone do their part. Though they would just be acting as security, Kakashi made a point of treating it like a serious mission. He wanted them to practice the same habits they would need on more important and more dangerous work. Though Hokkaido was designated a village, it was actually a prosperous small town of about 60,000. It was the capital of its prefecture. Entering the village, it was easy to see the preparations people were making. Streets were being swept clean, and everywhere, on every door and window, people were displaying flowers or green branches. In the middle of the village there was a large open-air marketplace that was crowded with stalls offering different games and tasty foods. All the people were smiling and in a fine mood. Naruto at first felt a little weird because the people here weren't glaring at him or ignoring him. When he stopped to think about it, he realized that made sense. The people here didn't know who he was. To them he was just a kid with some weird scars. Having people smile at him and treat him the way they treated his teammates was definitely strange. When you grow up being treated a certain way, you just accept that's how things are, and how they are meant to be. Even if you hate it, you just figure that if everyone is treating you that way, it must be for some reason. His mind understood the reason for it now, but he still found he was so ingrained to being hated and ignored he had trouble accepting normal treatment. Entering the village, Kakashi had asked the local residents where he might find the mayor and had been directed to the open-air market. There they found him. The mayor was a middle-aged man with a wide belly, dressed in plain work clothes. When they first saw him, he had a hammer in his hand and was helping put a stand up. We don't worry much about formality here, Mayor Binya told them. Thank you for coming to provide security. He glanced at Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke worriedly. I had expected your team to be made up of adults. There's no need for concern, Kakashi assured him. Despite their ages, all the members of my team are real ninja while I am an elite jonin. I promise you we can handle things during your festival. We'll take care of crowd control and see to it no one causes trouble. Crowd control. Binya blinked at him. Our own police force can take care of that. That's not why you were hired. Now Kakashi looked surprised. I'm sorry, but the request was for security during the 3 days and nights of your festival. Was that a mistake? No, you are here to provide security for the next 3 days. But not for the festival. Beneath his mask Kakashi frowned. Then what are we providing security for? The mayor looked around nervously. Please come with me. Binya took them out of the village and into the nearby woods. About a couple miles from Hokkaido they came to a modest wooden house with a small garden. He led them up the stone walkway and opened the door. Inside was a room empty of any furnishing but a small mat. Hanging on the walls were portraits symbolizing various kami and earth spirits. Kneeling on the mat, and apparently deep in meditation, was a young girl of perhaps 8 or 9. She was dressed in a white tunic and loose red pants of a priestess. Her long black hair was tied in a ponytail that ran halfway down her back. She remained where she was kneeling with her eyes closed, not noticing the opening of the door or the 5 sets of eyes that here watching her from it. Her name is Shizuku, she is our priestess of the spring. Binya whispered. Your job is to protect her. Kakashi's one visible eyebrow rose. You went through the expense and trouble of hiring us just to protect a priestess for 3 days. Binya quietly slid the door shut again. That is the time she will be in danger. Danger. Binya nodded solemnly. I am afraid someone is going to try and murder her. Murder. Sakura gasped. Kakashi motioned her to be silent. Has someone made a threat against her life? You could say that, during each of the last 7 festivals our priestess of the spring has been found brutally killed. And all of them were children around Shizuku's age. 7 murders. Kakashi said. Binya nodded. Do you have any suspects? The entire village, the mayor said sadly. Kakashi looked at him stonily. You're going to have to explain that. Hokkaido is a very old village with many old customs. The mayor looked down in shame. Among them the custom of human sacrifice. In ancient times a pure and innocent child would be offered up to the spirits of the earth. A boon you might say, her life and blood in return for bountiful harvests and peace within our lands. A lot of places used to practice that, but the custom fell out of favor hundreds of years ago. Kakashi pointed out. The same was true here, until 7 years ago. The land had suffered 4 years of bad crops. Drought, flood, hail, early frost, one natural disaster after another was slowly ruining the local farms and farmers. Then 7 years ago during the festival of spring renewal our priestess went missing. Each year one girl is selected to act as our priestess of the spring. She is brought here to live separate from her family for that time and to devote herself to prayer and meditation. She performs the ritual ceremonies of the festival and then is returned to her family and a new priestess is chosen. But 7 years ago our priestess disappeared on the second night of the festival. He shook his head sadly. She was eventually found in the woods with her throat cut. Let me guess, Kakashi said coldly. You had a bountiful harvest that fall. Twitching the mayor nodded. No one knows who is responsible, or how many people are involved. The people here don't talk about it. So basically it's one vast conspiracy. Kakashi asked. More or less, Binya admitted. I can't believe people can still be that barbaric in this day and age. Sasuke said. Not everyone feels that way. Binya said. Most people here are disgusted by the murders, but it's impossible to tell who feels differently. Last year I had my entire police force guarding this place around the clock. But the priestess was still found dead, poisoned. It was impossible to tell when it was done or if it was done with the aid of people on the police force. But it was a possibility. So you suspect some of your police are part of the conspiracy? Kakashi asked. That's right, Binya said. That's why I decided to send for you. Only people from outside the village can be trusted to really protect her. The custom is that the sacrifice must be made during the time of the festival. Once it's over she will no longer be the priestess and so be safe. In that case why don't we just take her away somewhere for the next 3 days? Kakashi offered. But the mayor shook his head. The priestess has to be the one to begin and conclude the festival and perform other ceremonies during it. If she isn't here the festival can't take place and the entire village would erupt. She's a Jinchuriki, Naruto said quietly. Kakashi looked at him nervously. What? Binya asked. Naruto glared at him furiously and the Mayo took a couple steps away from the boy. I said she's a Jinchuriki, she's a human sacrifice made for the good of this village, Naruto answered clearly. You people don't give a damn whether she lives or dies so long as the village prospers, right? Naruto, Kakashi said cautiously. Well, she's not going to die. I'll protect her and make sure she lives. That's a promise. Sasuke and Sakura both looked on surprised by his intensity. It was almost as though he felt a personal connection to her for some reason. Kakashi slowly nodded his head. While Naruto is a bit more emotional about it than I would like, I agree. We will protect her with our lives. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the mouth-watering aroma of meat cooking over an open flame. All around them the crowd was smiling and cheering. Little children sat on their parents' shoulders looking on at the procession. The grown-ups were dressed in their best yukatas, making them as colorful as the parade. They were in bright colors, greens and purples and reds and yellows and of course orange. Everyone looked so happy, they were all cheering and clapping their hands as their priestess of the spring slowly walked past. She was preceded and followed by school children in their own bright yukatas. The children carried tree branches and flowers, symbols of spring renewal. No one seemed to make a big deal about the 20 orange-clad ninja who walked along keeping the priestess surrounded at all times. Each Naruto kept his eyes scanning the crowd and the rooftop for any possible threat. He spotted some movement on a roof and tensed. He relaxed when he saw it was just a temp. Sasuke and Sakura would keep an eye from the roofs while he was the one who stayed near Shizuku. Kakashi was somewhere in the crowd in a henge. Naruto picked up his scent and knew he was moving along with the procession but had no idea which face was his. Their job was to protect Shizuku for these 3 days and they were all serious about keeping her safe. Shizuku was looking calmly at the 4 ninja who had come to keep her safe. Binya had introduced them to her and explained that they would be staying at the shrine during the festival to protect her. The mayor had then excused himself to return to his carpentry. The little priestess had accepted their arrival with a serenity that caught them all off guard. I understand that you will be staying here in the shrine, she said quietly. She smiled at them innocently, a child's smile. No one else ever stays here with me. Nori comes and teaches me and Momo cooks for me, but otherwise I am always alone. I think it will be nice to have company. Do you ever have contact with anyone other than your caretaker and your teacher? Kakashi asked. The little girl shook her head. Everyone else stays away from here and I am not supposed to leave the shrine. You must get really lonely, Naruto said in a soft voice. Shizuku looked at him. Not really, I meditate and pray to pass the time. I know what I am doing is important to the village so I don't mind it. Naruto was very surprised to find he actually believed her. There was not a whiff of resentment coming off her. He knew how hard it was to be all alone so he couldn't begin to understand how she could be alright with it. Don't you have any friends? Anyone you can talk to? He asked. Kakashi glanced at Naruto silently. I have only Nori and Momo, she said. I have a mother I have not seen since I became priestess. I would really like to be with Kasen again. But that is not for me to decide. What do you mean? Whether or not I see Kasen again is karma. What will be, I cannot change it but only accept it. Then you understand the reason why we are here? Kakashi asked carefully. She simply nodded. I know that the 7 priestesses before me were all sacrificed, and that you are here to try and prevent that from happening to me as well. How can you be so calm about it? Sakura blurted out. Some people out there want to kill you. Why aren't you scared? Because I have been taught to accept whatever fate is meant for me. Whatever my karma is I accept it, she said tranquilly. What if your karma is to be murdered in the next 3 days? Naruto asked. Would you just accept that? Yes, she said. Naruto. Sakura said sharply. You can't say that to her. Why not? It's what I honestly feel. You cannot oppose what is meant to be, Shizuku told him politely. She did not seem offended or bothered by what he had just said. We must all bend before the wind. To resist fate only causes suffering. Do you not believe in karma? Hell no, he said with a sneer. 'Cause, my karma was to die all alone hated by everyone. If I was going to pay attention to what fate or Kami or whoever planned for me I'd have laid down and died a long time ago. But I decided instead that I was going to be Hokage one day. Not because it was my karma but because it was what I wanted. That's my dream and I'll make it come true no matter what it takes. Shizuku's eyes widened a bit at the passion and fervor of his words. But aren't you afraid of what will happen if you oppose what fate has in store for you? Whenever a soul opposes its natural destiny, only suffering can come as a result. So what? Naruto asked. Life is filled with suffering anyway. If I have to suffer anyway, it might as well be to fulfill my dream. What's your dream? What? She asked in confusion. What's your dream? He repeated. What is it you want from life? She looked a little nervous, a little unsure of herself. I don't have a dream, I am ready to accept whatever comes. Come on, everyone has a dream, everyone has something they want. He pointed at Sasuke. The Tem there wants to kill a certain man and restore his clan. Sasuke said with a slight frown. He pointed at Sakura. She wants to have the Tem fall in love with her and give him a whole herd of little pink-haired kids. Hey, he pointed at Kakashi. He just wants to spend the rest of his life doing nothing but reading porn. Kakashi shrugged. Well, that's true. As for me, I'm going to be Hokage and rule my village. He gave her a big triumphant smile. So what do you want? She looked down and squirmed a little. It is selfish to have personal desires. Maybe, I guess, but everyone has them. Isn't there something you want? She was silent for a while. I want to be with Mama again, she said in a small voice. I just want to be with Mama again. Naruto nodded. That's a good dream. If that's what you want, you have to be willing to fight for it. He stepped forward and she felt him press something into her hand. It was cold and hard. When she saw what it was, she dropped it and stepped back in horror. The kunai fell to the wooden floor with a small clang. I am a priestess. I cannot carry a weapon. I am sworn to harm no living thing. Even if they want to harm you. He picked it up off the floor and held it out to her. If you really want to be with your mother again, if that's your dream, you have to be willing to fight for it. Naruto, she's a priestess, she's not like us. Sakura pointed out. It's our job to protect because we're the ninja, we're the ones who have been taught to fight. I know that, Sakura-chan, and I don't plan on any danger getting anywhere near her. But just in case, she should be willing to protect herself if it comes down to that. Naruto continued to hold the kunai out to her. Dreams don't come true just because you wish for them, you have to fight to make them real. Naruto actually brings up a valid point, Kakashi said. While we will do everything in our power to protect you and keep you safe, it would still be a good idea to be armed. I cannot do violence to any living thing, she said firmly. Then use it to make them think twice. Naruto said. If it comes to it, pull it out and shout for help. Maybe just seeing you're armed will buy you a few seconds. You can at least do that, right? She thought of it. I suppose I could. But to even carry a weapon. It's only for 3 days, Naruto said warmly and slipped the kunai into a wide pocket on her trousers. I'm sure Kami or Fate or whatever will forgive you. I suppose, she said, but continued to look troubled. Walking along the parade route, the original Naruto was the one closest to her. If anything happened, he wanted to be at her side, ready to act. As they walked, Shizuku looked up at him. She was about 6 inches shorter than he was. Naruto, why do you care so much? Huh? The girl smiled at his obvious confusion. I am just curious why you care so much. Your sensei and your teammates want to protect me, but while they are very sincere in their efforts, I can tell it is a mission for them. They will protect me because it is their job. If their job were to kill me, they would try and do it just as well, right? That is how ninja are, I believe. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in discomfort. Well, if it was the mission, we would sort of have to. We have to obey the orders of the Hokage, and you usually don't get to pick and choose which missions you're assigned. We're not supposed to ever let things be personal. But you do, she said softly. You really care about protecting me in a way the others don't. Why is that? It's because I understand your situation, he told her. I know what it's like to be a living sacrifice for a village and have them not even care. He looked at the cheering crowd. They acknowledge you, they cheer for you, but how many of them would be sorry if you were to die so long as the village had a nice harvest? Sure, they care about that, but do any of them care about you and what you have to sacrifice for their sakes? Not damn likely. But aren't ninja expected to lay down their lives for their village? People don't appreciate that. Naruto shook his head. I'm not talking about being a ninja. People respect ninja where I come from, and the ones who die in service to the village have their names carved into a memorial, they are remembered. But I chose to become a ninja, I never chose to be a sacrifice. What do you mean? She asked. How are you a sacrifice? Knowing he'd said too much, he quickly smiled and shook his head. Ah, never mind, forget I said that. The point is, I understand what it's like to be where you are now, and I want to protect you. I want you to live and have your dream. I want you to get to be with your cousin, and I'll make sure it happens. That's a promise, and I never break a promise. That's my ninja way. Looking up at him, Shizuku smiled warmly. Karma will decide if that happens, but thank you for trying to protect me. She placed a hand on his arm. I'm an only child and my father died when I was very young. I always wanted to have an older brother who would protect me and watch out for me. If I'd had one, I would want him to be just like you, Naruto. Really? For someone who had spent his whole life abused and unwanted, hearing that meant a lot to him. Really, she said. Would it be all right if I called you Onisan while you are here? Even if it's just for the festival, I would like to pretend I have an older brother. Sure, he said in genuine happiness. It was strange how such a small thing could mean so much to him. Then please take care of me, Nisan. I will, he said solemnly and placed a gentle hand over hers. I'll keep you safe no matter what. That first day went really well. There was no sign of trouble. Shizuku performed the opening ceremony to a loud chorus of cheers. She then performed a few other ceremonies before returning to the shrine with Naruto and Kakashi. I want you two to remain here at the festival for the rest of the day and enjoy yourselves, Kakashi said. You mean it, sensei? Sakura said excitedly. What about the mission? Sasuke asked. How can it be all right for us to waste time when there's a job to do? This is part of your mission, Kakashi said. Go through the festival and see if there's anything unusual going on. See if there are any unusual characters about. You mean besides us? Sasuke asked dryly. Oh come on, Sasuke-kun, it's a reconnaissance mission. She put her arm through his. And we can pretend it's a date. Before Sasuke could freeze her solid with just a few words, Kakashi cut him off. That's a fine idea. You two pretend to be a couple enjoying the festival. Don't return to the shrine until it ends. Kakashi chuckled as he fled. I really wish he would be more serious about things. Sasuke thought. He turned to see Sakura still holding on to him, her eyes somehow filling most of her face. Don't get any weird ideas, Sakura. I'm only doing this because it's part of the mission. I understand, Sasuke-kun, she said. Cha, my very first date with Sasuke-kun. Just wait until I tell Ino Pig, she'll be so jealous. Kakashi caught up to Shizuku and Naruto, who were surrounded by a wide circle of 20 clones. As usual, he had his little orange book out and was reading it. What kind of book is that? Shizuku asked. Kakashi looked up from his reading material. What kind of book is that? Shizuku repeated. She squinted her eyes a bit. Come Paradise. That's an odd title. Having an 8-year-old questioning him about what he was reading was a bit embarrassing. The fact she was an actual priestess made it worse. Ah, well, you see. It's a dirty book that he reads all the time, Naruto told her matter-of-factly. Kakashi's just a huge perv. Thanks, Naruto, Kakashi said wryly. What? You or aren't you? Shizuku shook her head sadly. Shouldn't a teacher set a good example for his students, Kakashi-san? It really isn't good to immerse yourself in impure thoughts, that can lead to immoral behavior, as well as hairy palms and blindness. Hey, Naruto said, is that how come you only have one eye? Kakashi's sweat dropped and put his book away. I'm really losing a lot of face here. Here you go kids, enjoy. The vendor handed each of them an ice cream cone. Arigato. The little blonde girl said. Thank you, an unhappy dark-haired boy said. They both had henges on to appear like ordinary children. A place of this size, there was no way people would know everyone. They walked away from the vendor and along the crowded street. It was sunset now and the crowds were a little sparser, many people had gone off to eat or rest. After the sun went down there would be music as various bands would begin to play and couple would dance to the music. This has got to be the all-time best mission ever, Sakura said. In one hand she had her ice cream and in the other she had Sasuke's arm. And if that wasn't perfect enough, they were in the middle of a festival. How could anything ever top this? Sasuke looked at her and at her hand on his arm. Though he didn't really like the closeness, he let it be since the alternative was to have her weeping and miserable. That would draw attention, at least this way they just looked like a couple kids enjoying themselves. Just so long as you don't forget this is a mission, Sakura. Oh, I haven't forgotten, Sasuke-kun, but I haven't seen anything even a little suspicious. Have you? No. She giggled a little. You sound disappointed. This is our first real mission, Sakura, he told her sternly. Our first chance to do something with our skills. I want to succeed, and succeed brilliantly. There's no way to do that if we can't even find the enemy. But what if there's no enemy? She asked. Or what the enemy gave up as soon as they saw their target being protected by ninja. I mean, look around, these are just normal people. I'm sure most of them had nothing to do with the murders. There were probably just a few sickos among them. So long as we keep our eyes open, I'm sure Shizuku will be safe. Sasuke did look at the people around them. Children and parents, grandparents, and young couples walked past oblivious and happy. These people weren't any different from the civilians back home. They wouldn't be any sort of threat to real ninja. I guess that's possible. Yeah, which means you can take me dancing. Dancing. Sakura laughed and hugged his arm. It's part of the mission, right, Sasuke-kun? He let out a defeated grunt. Worst mission ever. That night Kakashi, Naruto, and Shizuku had dinner bought at the various stalls by Kakashi. The food already in the shrine's small back kitchen had been unceremoniously thrown away. Since the last victim had been poisoned, the possibility that the food could already have been doctored had to be considered. I wish we had ramen, Naruto complained as he had some fried squid. Ramen isn't very good for you, Nisan, Shizuku said primly. I mostly eat rice with some fish and vegetables. Naruto made a face. I hate vegetables. You should still eat them, they are good for you. She looked at Kakashi. Tomorrow could we get some vegetables to eat too? Kakashi nodded. Sure, that's no problem at all. I've actually been trying to get him to eat more than just ramen myself. He comes by my apartment sometimes with bags filled with green stuff, Naruto shivered. They're good for you, Nisan. But I hate them. Kakashi ate his dinner quietly and listened to the byplay between them. Following dinner, a couple of Naruto's clones cleaned up as Shizuku began her evening prayers. Naruto, come and take a walk with me for a bit, there's something we need to discuss. Outside the shrine the two of them strolled along. Naruto had already set 20 of his clones to act as guards and hidden them in the nearby trees and shrubs. Even while he and his sensei were off talking, she remained under protection. So what's going on, sensei? Naruto, Kakashi said in a low voice. I think you're getting a little too involved with our client. Huh, what do you mean? A ninja's first and only true loyalty should be to his village, Naruto, Kakashi said quietly. While on a mission we are loyal to our client. We will do everything in our power to protect our client, even lay down our lives. But when the mission is over we return to our village. For people like us, Naruto, it's very dangerous to make attachments outside the village. We care about our village and about our comrades, but we can't care too much for the people we are sent out to protect. Naruto came to a halt and looked up at him. Why not? Shizuku is a really good person and I like her. Except for Gigi, she's been nicer to me than anyone I've ever known. I agree that she's a very nice person, Naruto, and that she is very kind to you. Nevertheless, you can't afford to care too much. How come? Naruto demanded. None of us can know what the future holds, Naruto, Kakashi told him. Someone we protect today could be a target tomorrow. Seeing a look of outrage, Kakashi waved his hand signaling him to relax. Not that I expect there's any chance of that in this situation, but it's not a good idea to get into the habit of becoming really close to people outside the village. A ninja should never have divided loyalties. He should always know exactly where his loyalties lie. I know who I'm loyal to, Naruto said. I'm loyal to the old man. And what would you do if the Hokage ordered you to come back here one day and assassinate her? The old man would never do something like that. But what if he did? Kakashi asked. Killing people, even innocent people, is a regular part of a ninja's life. As a leaf ninja you must be ready at any time to carry out any mission given to you, even one that involves people you already know. As a matter of fact, you might get the mission because you know them and can get closer to them more easily. So if the Hokage were to order you to kill her someday, what would you do? Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and glared up defiantly. He did not answer. That's about what I thought, Kakashi said. It's fine for now, like I said, I can't imagine the scenario where anything like this would ever happen. But remember what I told you for the future. Don't care about anyone outside the village, got it? Don't care too much. You'll meet a lot of people during your career and the connections you make can be very valuable to you. Making friends with your clients is just fine, as long as you understand your loyalty belongs only to the village. So I should be ready to betray any friends I make who aren't from Konoha. That's a rather harsh way of putting it, Naruto. But that's what you mean, right? Kakashi nodded. More or less. Sasuke and Sakura returned a little after 10. Other than Sakura gushing about what a marvelous dancer Sasuke was, there was nothing for them to report. So far as any of them could tell, there was nothing out of the ordinary about Hokkaido or its festival. The first full day of their mission had gone well. The trouble began late that night. Long after they had put out the lights and gone to bed, 5 figures dressed in black moved through the woods. With blades in hand they approached the shrine. 5 men dressed in black moved through the woods to the edge of the clearing surrounding the shrine. They huddled together and looked over the darkened shrine. Even with its lights off they could see it clearly thanks to the moon. Remember, there are ninja in there. We need to be careful. One of the men whispered. Is this a good idea? Another asked. It has to be done, the first one said. What if the ninja are awake? A different man said nervously. It's 3 in the morning, I'm sure they're all asleep. You're sure of that, are you? An amused voice said from the tree branches just above them. All 5 of the would-be gasped and looked up. There was an adult sitting calmly on a tree branch with a book in his hand. Near him on other branches were 3 identical blonde boys, all well hidden. Even in a nice quiet town like this we do still post a guard just in case. He snapped shut his book and put it away. I don't suppose you'd like to just give up now? He was answered by a shout and a throwing knife. The knife came nowhere near him. In the blink of an eye he was on the ground in the middle of them. A few punches, a couple kicks and it was all over. All 5 of them were unconscious. The 3 cage bunchins jumped down and looked upset. No fair, sensei. I didn't get the chance to do anything. Don't complain, Naruto, it won't always be that easy. I just wanted to see for myself the level of the opposition. Looking at the prone bodies he snorted. They weren't much. Beneath his mask Kakashi frowned. No, they weren't, and that's what scares me. What do you mean? Isn't that a good thing? Squatting down near a couple of the unconscious men he nodded to them. Look closely, Naruto, and tell me what you see. Not understanding, Naruto looked them over, not sure what he was supposed to be looking for. I just see 5 men who came here to attack Shizuku and got beat up instead. You're not looking underneath Naruto. He reached out and pulled up a jacket one of the men had on. These men aren't in ninja gear or in any sort of armor. They're all wearing different kinds of work and casual clothes. Look at their weapons, he pointed to them. A couple short swords, a couple axes, some throwing knives, and even a couple kitchen knives and cleavers. Now what does all this tell you? Naruto shrugged. That they're not ninja or even real soldiers, they're probably just civilians who used whatever they had. Kakashi nodded. That's part of it, but it also means something else that is very troubling. What? It means these men were very likely volunteers rather than members of an organization. How can you tell that? The kunai and shuriken you have in your pouch, are they better or worse than the ones Sasuke or Sakura have? They're the same, I bought them in the same standard everyone else does. Though I had to pay about 3 times as much. Kakashi nodded. While many ninja have personalized weapons, all Leaf Ninja use the same basic kunai and shuriken because they are an organizational standard. Groups that work together closely will invariably develop certain common traits. But none of these men dressed alike or even brought the same weapons. So that would indicate they were assigned the job or volunteered for it and provided what they thought they would need themselves. I still don't see what the problem is. If these men were volunteers or assigned this job at random even though they apparently hadn't worked or trained together, that suggests there was a large body to select from, doesn't it? Up until now I'd thought this was a small group of religious fanatics. What if we're dealing with something much larger? Naruto thought about the implications and didn't like them. It doesn't matter, I'll keep her safe no matter how many people threaten her. Kakashi nodded. Yes, we will. He grabbed two men and tossed one over each shoulder. In the meanwhile, I have something to take care of. He looked over to the Naruto he'd been talking to. I'll handle this part on my own. What are you going to do? I'm just going to ask them a few questions, Kakashi said pleasantly. The clone looked calmly back at him. You're going to torture them. Only if I have to, and only as much as I have to. We need some information and time isn't on our side. A lot of what a ninja does isn't pretty and isn't glorious, but it's necessary. Let me watch, Naruto said in a deathly serious voice. I don't think this is something you need to see yet. It's necessary for a ninja though, isn't it? It's something I'll have to learn about eventually, right? Naruto demanded. I know you don't like to teach me anything, sensei, but just this once, why don't you make an exception? Kakashi saw the look in Naruto's eyes. It was a look he'd seen many times, but never in anyone so young. Why do you want to learn about torture? Kakashi asked quietly. No special reason, he said with a false smile. Just thought it might come in handy someday. Several times Kakashi had wondered just what was there beneath that mask he used. Naruto played the happy idiot well. So well, in fact, many people accepted the persona without question. But Kakashi was nothing if not observant. He'd watched both Naruto and Sasuke very carefully and had serious concerns about both. He suspected that both boys were being consumed by rage and a desire for revenge. Naruto hid this while Sasuke didn't bother to. Every now and again Naruto would let his mask slip and reveal something very scary. Of the two of them, Naruto worried him the most because he was so determined to keep his true nature hidden. All right, Kakashi answered. If you really want to see, that's fine, pick up the other three and follow me. Naruto nodded and three clones picked up three men before following Kakashi deeper into the woods away from the shrine. Hi there. The man slowly opened his eyes. He found himself staring into a masked face with some crazy hair and one eye covered up. And the face was upside down. It took a moment for him to realize he was the one upside down. He looked about and saw he was tied up and being suspended over a small stream. What's going on? That's my line, Kakashi told him. By the way, my name is Hatake Kakashi and I'm a ninja from Konoha. Who might you be? The man clamped down his teeth and stared back defiantly. Not going to answer my questions, I understand, and I want you to know I respect your loyalty to your comrades. Kakashi released a rope he'd been holding in his right hand. The man fell into the water below. Caught by surprise, he'd been gasping and had not thought to hold his breath. As soon as he hit the water, he took in a mouthful of water and started to choke. His instincts took over and he thrashed about trying to free himself. His arms and legs were bound tight though, so it was all just wasted motion. The air left his mouth and nose and the water poured in. He could feel the water fill his nose and throat as he tried to breathe. Terror filled him as all he could see was murky water. Then, just as he thought he was really going to drown, the rope around his ankles tightened and he was hauled up out of the water. As his prisoner coughed and gagged, Kakashi patiently waited. There was no point in talking until the man had a chance to recover a bit. When the coughing passed and he was breathing normally, Kakashi spoke. But while I admire your loyalty, I have a job to do. I need you to answer all my questions and answer them truthfully. I promise you that if you do that, you won't be harmed. If you don't, I can't answer for what may happen here. You can't do that. I'm a citizen of Fire Country. Without a word, Kakashi let go of the rope again. This time the man managed to take a breath and shut his mouth. That didn't stop the water trickling in through his nose though. And before long he could feel his lungs aching. He finally opened his mouth and the water came in again. He struggled like a fish on a hook but couldn't get his head out of the water. Again, just as it seemed he was really going to die, he felt himself being yanked up out of the water. Watching cough and gag and then desperately breathe in the air, Kakashi knew this wouldn't take long. Very few people could last any amount of time under torture. Unless you were someone trained to endure pain and who was willing to die. Like a ninja. I am a representative of the Lord Hokage on a mission and charged to complete that mission by whatever means necessary. I am not answerable to you, your village, or even to the Fire Daimyo himself. The only one I must answer to is the Lord Hokage. And if I have to kill a few pieces of garbage like you to protect my client, I will. Now, let's try again. Who are you? My name is Jibo. A pleasure to meet you, Jibo. Now please tell me who you are working with. Naruto watched as Kakashi dropped the man into the water for a third time. It was interesting watching Kakashi go. Whenever people had hurt him, it had always been with anger. Watching someone inflict a measured amount of suffering without even a speck of anger was definitely different. Naruto watched and listened as the man began to talk about everything he knew. He required no more dunkings, his spirit seemed broken. Is that all it takes to break someone? He thought contemptuously. He thought off all the beatings, all the threats, all the cruelty he'd been forced to swallow at so many hands. If he were the sort to break so easily, he'd have committed suicide long ago. When Kakashi finally had all his answers, he knocked the prisoner out and brought his soaking wet body over to a tree where he was tied up and gagged. Kakashi then went and retrieved another prisoner. He had tied each one to a different tree a good ways from here. They would have no chance to talk to each other or hear what their friend had already answered. Each prisoner was tortured, their answers expanded his information and either confirmed or called into doubt what he'd been told. Naruto found the lesson very instructive. Through all this, the shrine remained under the watchful eyes of Naruto's clones. By the time Kakashi was done, the clones who had accompanied him dispelled themselves, giving their original all the information. The real Naruto woke up knowing everything that had happened. He crawled over to Sasuke and Sakura and shook them awake. "What is it, Naruto?" Sakura asked in a bleary voice. Looking out the window, she saw it was still pitch dark outside. "Geez, what time is it? Was there a reason you woke us up, Dobi?" Sasuke asked. "Yeah, Tem, we had visitors during the night and we're going to have more of them this morning." Sasuke came fully awake and looked very interested. "What are you talking about?" "Kakashi-sensei will explain everything, but we need to get up and get ready." A few hours later it was morning and the sun was up above the horizon. Shizuku and Sakura were the only ones still inside the shrine. Sakura hadn't wanted to be here, she'd wanted to be outside with Sasuke-kun and the others. Kakashi though had ordered her to remain here and keep an eye on Shizuku. "Will it be all right?" Shizuku asked nervously. Sakura nodded her head forcefully. "It will be fine, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun, and even Naruto can all take care of themselves. And I'll make sure nothing happens to you." Despite her smile, she was filled with doubt. "Cha, I'm the weakest and sensei knows it too. That's why he's keeping me out of the way." Outside the shrine, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto all waited. For once the two teammates wore similar expressions, they both had looks of eager anticipation. Kakashi was standing there calmly reading his book. With or without the mask, it would have been impossible to know what he was thinking. Naruto suddenly turned to him. "One of my clones just dispelled, they're coming, and they should be here pretty soon." Kakashi slowly nodded. Naruto's shadow clone technique was really useful in all sorts of ways. He closed his book and put it away. "How many of them are there?" "I counted 100, Naruto said. "You can account that high?" Sasuke asked. "Shut up, Tem," Naruto grunted. Kakashi sighed. "Just remember, we just need to stop them. Don't use lethal force unless it's necessary." Naruto noticed Sasuke shake a little. "You afraid bastard." Sasuke looked at him with a rare grin. "I'm shivering from excitement dead last." "Well, this should definitely be exciting," Kakashi said. About 10 minutes later they saw a long line of men approaching them. About half of them wore leather jerkins covered by coats with badges pinned to them. Each of them wore a short sword similar to the ones two of their prisoners had used. The rest of the crowd approaching them wore different sorts of outfits and carried a wide variety of weapons ranging from axes to spears to swords and even sickles. They came up to the edge of the clearing and stopped. Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke were all standing there calmly. One of the men who wore a badge spoke up. "I am Captain Hotaka, commander of the Hikato police force. We've had word of an incident last night." "That's interesting," Kakashi noted. "Especially since no one's contacted the police about what happened here this morning." Hotaka frowned but pressed on. "Mayor Binya has decided that it would be best to leave the priestess's safety in our hands." "Really? He went to the trouble of hiring us in the first place because he didn't trust his own police force with protecting her." "The mayor has since had a change of heart," Hotaka told him. "We realize we have wasted your time and apologize for that. We will still pay for the full cost of your services, but we'd like you to leave now." "I am afraid that would be impossible," Kakashi said. "My team and I were dispatched here to complete a mission and that is exactly what I intend to do." Your mission is over now, we'll take care of the girl. Her name is Shizuku, Naruto said angrily. If you're going to talk about her, at least use her name. Sasuke looked over in surprise while Kakashi gave no reaction. I am afraid you don't have the authority to cancel this mission, Kakashi said. I think it would be best for you and your men if they turned around and left. I can't do that, Hotaka said and placed a hand on his short sword. That appeared to be a signal as behind him weapons were drawn and readied. Stand aside or me and my men will use force, Hotaka said. You and your men are welcome to try. At a signal the men shouted and ran forward. The men all gave a shout and came on, weapons ready. As they did so, Naruto's jumped down from the nearby trees among them. Instantly everything dissolved into one wild melee. 3 men with badges and short swords were on Kakashi at the start. These men were strong and healthy, and from the way they moved it was clear they'd had at least a little practice with their swords. From the looks in their eyes it was also clear they were deadly serious about reaching their target. For someone like Kakashi all that meant very little. The challenge for him wasn't in defeating these men but in doing so without seriously injuring them. In a blur 2 fists smashed into unprotected faces while the third was hit in the side of the head with a kick. All 3 attackers went down in under 3 seconds. Despite this show of strength and martial skill, other men came at him with swords and axes, desperate to bring the Jonin down by sheer force of numbers. Kakashi had no doubts he could handle any number of these people, but they did get between him and his students. Sasuke was surrounded by 4 men, all of them at least a foot taller and 50 pounds heavier and armed. The Uchiha was smiling, his heart was pounding, and for the first time in years he felt really truly alive. Here was a chance to actually do something, to fight a real battle against a real enemy. The man in front of him screamed and swung an axe aiming to split his skull in half. Too slow, Sasuke stepped forward into the arc of his swing and delivered a pair of rabbit punches to the man's kidneys that doubled him up. He had no chance to do more as someone else stabbed at him with a spear. A single chop of his hand broke off the metal head. Grabbing the wooden staff he drove it forward through his opponent's lax grip. The butt end of the spear slammed into his stomach. With a loud oof, he fell over clutching his belly. From behind 2 more men came at him with swords swinging. These 2 had enough sense to come at him as a team. As one stabbed the other tried to get behind him. Sasuke was forced to dodge and jump back as the second man's sword came close to cutting him. For civilians they were pretty fast. Then something strange happened. For no reason he could see they slowed down. Not only did they slow down, he could see just where they were aiming their strikes. Taking out a kunai he blocked one attack and delivered a kick to the side of the man's knee. He went down in a heap and wouldn't be standing, let alone fighting again anytime soon. His friend ran in stabbing at Sasuke's chest. The move was ridiculously obvious as Sasuke could see it coming. He easily dodged and delivered a punch to the side of his jaw that ended the fight. 4 men lay at his feet unconscious or otherwise disabled. It was just as Sasuke had always known it would be, they were no match for him. He waded into the crowd eager for more battle. Oblivious to the fact his Sharingan was now active. Come on, Naruto screamed. His fist slammed into a man's chest and he could feel ribs break. He was the Kyuubi, his speed and physical strength were greater than they should have been, as was his ferocity. The man he hit cried out and dropped his sword backing away from him. Naruto didn't hesitate, he delivered a punch that busted open the man's mouth and sent blood and teeth flying. With him down he looked around for someone else to fight. He and his clones were cutting loose, fighting with a wild abandon. Naruto was discovering that he really liked fighting. He actually enjoyed bloodshed, the sight of it, the metallic smell of it, it was wonderful. This is what I was born for, he thought as a punch slammed into a man's back, bringing him down without warning. I'm the Kyuubi and this is my nature. In the midst of fighting he found an odd sort of peace. He didn't have to pretend to be something he was not, he could let his nature come out. He could show them the monster he was slowly becoming. Normally he was surrounded by nothing but lies and deception, everyone pretending to be something else, himself included. On the battlefield though you got to see what someone really was. All through the fighting he had held back from using lethal force as Kakashi had instructed. He wanted to kill though, wanted to see and taste more blood. He wanted to be buried in that wonderful scent. But he held back. He couldn't reveal too much of the real him, not yet. So he looked around for someone new to fight. And by chance saw two men who had gotten behind them in the confusion and were kicking down the shrine's door. They could both hear the sounds of the fight raging outside. The two girls had locked the one and only door and covered the windows. They both waited in silence as they heard but did not see what was going on just outside. Without warning, the wooden burst open, shards of wood sent flying from the broken lock. Two men with leather jerkins and badges rushed in with swords drawn and murder in their eyes. "Get behind me, Shizuku!" Sakura cried and gripped a kunai in both hands while putting herself between the intruders and her client. This was it, this was the moment she had strived for, worked for, learned all the ninja rules for. She was in a life and death situation, she was acting like a real ninja. And it was only at this moment that she had a horrible epiphany. She was scared. These two men wanted to kill her. They didn't give a damn who she was or if she was the girl best suited to be with Sasuke. All they saw was an enemy they had to get through to reach their objective. Her heart was pounding and she couldn't keep her knees from shaking. Somehow during all the years at the academy as she had focused on her pursuit of Sasuke and on being the best in academics, she had never thought about this side of being a ninja. That was absurd, that anyone could spend years striving to be a ninja and never once wonder about the reality of a life and death fight. Such violence was the reason ninja and ninja villages existed. Yet whenever she would imagine herself going on missions, her thoughts always revolved around her amazing Sasuke with her skills. The idea that one day she would have to kill or be killed never really registered. Until now. As the men came at her howling, she was half a step too slow. Her fear led to hesitation, and her hesitation led to what she feared. With her kunai she managed to deflect one of the swords, but was unable to get out of the way of the second. Her eyes widened as the tip of the second blade went into the soft flesh just below her right shoulder and sunk in deep. Ah! Her cry of terror belonged to a 12-year-old girl, not to a ninja. She jerked back and the sword came out of her. Pain engulfed her shoulder as her right arm no longer wanted to work. She saw and felt the hot blood flow from her gash and darken her red dress. "Sakura!" Shizuku called out. As Sakura stumbled back, the two men did not hesitate. They did not offer her a chance to surrender or say a word. They came on wanting to finish her as quick as they could and take care of the priestess. "I'm going to die," Sakura realized with a sudden clarity. All those book smarts she prided herself on, all the good looks that were so important to her, none of them mattered now. She was too weak, and now she was going to pay for it. "Stop!" a voice screamed from the door. Before her eyes there was an orange blur. Just as the two men were turning to face their new attacker, she saw a glint of steel. She stood there and just watched as Naruto slammed one kunai into the side of a man's throat all the way to the handle. In the same instant the kunai in his other hand went into the side of the other man's skull with an audible chunk sound that was exactly like when a kunai went into a wooden training post. The man with the kunai in his head dropped to the floor and jerked and flopped around like a fish until he went still. The one with the knife through his throat dropped his sword and clutched at his bleeding throat. Naruto pulled out another kunai and viciously began stabbing the man in his chest. He didn't just stab him once, or twice, he stabbed him and stabbed him and stabbed him. Even after 15 of so, with him lying motionless on the floor in an expanding pool of blood, he kept right on stabbing, a huge smile on his face, his eyes alive and filled with an immense joy. "Stop it!" Shizuku screamed. "Naruto, for the love of Kami, stop!" Hearing Shizuku scream, Naruto jerked to a halt with the kunai halfway down to another stab. He looked and saw the horror on Shizuku's face. His own face and clothes were spattered in blood. His weapon and his right hand were drenched in it. The smile and the look of excitement faded. Naruto refused to break eye contact with her. "I did what I had to." As if coming out of a daze, he looked around the shrine and hurried over to Sakura. He pulled out some gauze from one of his pouches and bound up her wound. Shizuku kept a fearful distance and never took her eyes off of him. The fight lasted roughly 5 minutes. The final outcome was never really in doubt. When Kakashi entered the shrine and saw what was there, he cursed himself for letting his guard down. He'd been confident that he and the two boys would be more than a match for 100 civilians. Because of that confidence, he had very nearly lost both one of his students and their client. "Naruto-kun saved my life, and Shizuku's too," Sakura said. Kakashi nodded. "I'm proud of you, Naruto, you did exactly what any good ninja should." Your use of deadly force was proper and necessary. You defended your comrade and your client. When we get back I'll put in a special commendation in your file. Kakashi decided not to mention the fact that one of the men killed had obviously been savaged beyond any possible need. Ninja had to be willing to kill without hesitation, but to commit such butchery suggested a violent and uncontrolled nature. That was extremely troubling, but this was not the time to try and deal with it. Thanks sensei, Naruto replied and turned a gentle gaze to Sakura who was lying on a mat. I'm just glad I got here in time to help Sakura-chan and Shizuku. You're worthless Sakura. Shizuku almost died because you couldn't even handle 2 civilians. You call yourself a ninja. The first time we go against other ninja you'll be dead in 30 seconds. Seeing the look of concern in Naruto's expression, Sakura smiled back warmly. Sasuke had not realized he'd activated his Sharingan until Kakashi told him. Kakashi had promised to begin training him in its use as soon as they got back to Konoha. Sasuke wasn't sure what a non-Uchiha could show him about it, but he would take whatever instruction he could get. When he had entered the shrine with Kakashi he'd been surprised to find the 2 corpses there and Sakura lying wounded. He'd assumed he'd be the first to score a kill on the team, but Naruto had beaten him to it. Sasuke had sent Naruto one single respectful nod. Surprised Naruto had shyly nodded back understanding. It looked like Naruto really had grown up since the academy. He was obviously a much stronger ninja than poor Sakura. He was willing to admit that the Dobi was deserving of some respect. But while he respected what Naruto had done he had no doubts about his own continued superiority. If not for Kakashi's order he could have had a dozen kills, and now that his Sharingan was active he would only grow more and more powerful. As Kakashi watched over Sakura, Naruto quietly approached Shizuku. She eyed him with worry but did not turn away or try to leave. Do you not like me anymore? Naruto asked directly, his voice low to keep his words just for her. The 8-year-old girl looked up at him, his face and clothes were still bloody. The bodies were still lying on the floor. The shrine had been desecrated, whoever became the next priestess would have to spend weeks performing purification rituals. I still like you Nisan, she said just as quietly. And for saving me and Sakura I thank you. But, you, her voice began to shake. I killed, he said. I did what I had to. You heard Kakashi-sensei, it was what any ninja would do, I'm even getting a commendation for it. There was nothing wrong in what I did. But you killed. Those men are dead now. Don't you feel any sorrow? Any regret? No, they'd have killed you and Sakura without a second thought. When it's us or them I chose them. How can you be so cruel? She asked sadly. It's cruel world out there, he told her. Maybe you didn't notice because you've been stuck in a shrine all this time. The men who came here all wanted to kill you. I did what I had to, my team did what we had to. Would it have been better if we hadn't? She looked down. Maybe, she said so very softly. It hurts me to think I am the cause of all this. Don't say that Shizuku-chan. None of this is your fault. The only people to blame are the people who want to kill you. Don't start blaming yourself for something that isn't your fault. She looked up at him. Why do you care so much Naruto? Because you're a friend, he nearly wailed. Except for one other person you are the only one to be really kind to me. You've become a precious person to me and I would do anything to protect you. And a slight smile appeared. Thank you Nisan, that means a lot to me. Sorry to interrupt, Kakashi said and joined them. There is something we need to discuss. He was looking at Shizuku. What is it Kakashi-san? I think it would be best if we were to all leave here now, you can return with us to Konoha. Leave, Shizuku said startled. But I am the priestess of the spring, I have a duty to perform. Besides this is my home. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the only duty you have here is to be sacrificed. There is something you need to know. Jibo was coughing up water. Please no more, I'll tell you whatever you want. Kakashi nodded. All right, first thing, how many people are in your organization? About half the village, Jibo said. If you'd like to go for another swim, Kakashi let the rope slip and bit and Jibo jerked towards the water. It's the truth I swear. Jibo cried. I started with a few people, no one really knows who. But over time more and more people joined. About half the village knows including the whole police force. We do what is necessary for the village to thrive. If we don't come back tomorrow, you'll be facing a lot more men who'll be ready to do whatever they have to. Kakashi got an uneasy feeling. He believed him. If that's really true, then why did Binya send for us? The mayor is part of the half that doesn't know. The people who aren't part of it have no idea who is or how many we are. Binya didn't know who he could trust, so he just acted on his own as mayor, using village funds to hire all of you. So what you're saying is that roughly about 30,000 people are a part of this conspiracy. Jibo nodded. And all of us are committed to doing whatever it takes. So you can see our problem, Kakashi said. I decided to stay here to see what sort of response we would get when the original 5 men didn't return. Given what we faced, I'd say we really are up against a massive number of people. Ninja can do a lot, but even with me here, the 4 of us cannot face thousands. The only way we can ensure your safety is to take you away from here. I am sorry, Kakashi-san, but I cannot do that. Whatever the danger, I have a sacred duty to perform. I cannot abandon it. I will not abandon it. You do understand that if you stay here, I cannot guarantee your safety. If you and your team wish to leave, Kakashi-san, I will not blame you. But I cannot go. If you're staying, then we're staying too. Right, sensei? Naruto said. Though he looked pained, Kakashi nodded. I will do everything in my power to protect you and carry out my mission. That is the way of the village hidden within the leaf. If we make it out of here, I am definitely getting some hazard pay for this. Well, if you're determined to stay, there are some things we'll need to take care of. Sakura, you just relax. Naruto and Sasuke, come with me. What are we doing? Sasuke asked. We're going outside and break some kneecaps, Kakashi said. Everyone in the room looked at him. Are you serious? Sasuke asked. Counting the men from last night, we have 103 prisoners, Kakashi said. There's no way for us to handle so many. Under normal circumstances, we would just hand them over to the local authorities, but that obviously won't work here. Why don't we just kill them? Naruto asked. Shizuku gasped. Naruto. Sakura and Sasuke both looked at him in surprise. Kakashi was looking over at him too, but not in surprise. What worried Kakashi most wasn't that Naruto had suggested it, but rather the way he had suggested it. Not with passionate anger in his voice, but with an ordinary tone. He was just offering an answer to a problem, nothing more. There are times when we do that, Naruto, Kakashi said. He was speaking to all of them. In certain situations you will have to kill prisoners, but that is only when circumstances force us to. As a general rule, we don't massacre helpless men, even if they are enemies. Then what's the point in breaking kneecaps? Naruto asked. If we break one kneecap, they will still be able to make it back to Hokkaido, even if they have to lean on one another or crawl all the way there. And who knows? Maybe the sight will be enough to convince the others to leave us alone. Though I doubt it. Kakashi-san, please don't hurt these men further. Shizuku cried. Just let them go. Kakashi shook his head. If I did that, they'd just come back and attack us again with their friends. If they're lame, they won't be any further threat. What we're doing is a mercy. It's either this or what Naruto suggested. The 3 ninja went outside, and in short order there was a loud series of shouts and cries. Shizuku knelt down in a corner and prayed, trying to ignore the sounds. Sakura lay there also listening. This is a part of what it means to be ninja, hurting people because it's a part of the mission. She tossed off her blanket and got up. Sakura-chan, where are you going? My left arm works just fine, she said. If this is something that needs to be done, I'm going to help my team. Sakura didn't realize it, but this was a first for her. For the very first time, she was about to act as a ninja without caring what Sasuke thought. When they were done with their task, Kakashi told all of them to leave their weapons and just go. Despite much pain and difficulty, the men wasted no time in stumbling and shambling away as fast as they physically could. The 2 dead men were buried in the nearby forest. Shizuku prayed for their souls and for Kami's forgiveness. In the shrine, she insisted on wiping the blood up alone. As priestess, it was her duty to purify the shrine of the violence that had tainted it. The rest of that day and night passed quietly. Naruto kept a large number of his clones surrounding the nearby woods. They each took turns staying up for guard duty, with Kakashi only getting 4 hours sleep. Sakura insisted that she take a turn as well, and Kakashi agreed. The sun rose on the 3rd and final day of the festival. That morning, a single visitor approached the shrine. He was met on the way there by Kakashi. I can't say I'm surprised to see you here, Kakashi noted. Let me guess, you're here to try and talk us into leaving. Biniya cast his eyes down nervously. I am so sorry about all this, I never knew how many. I know, Kakashi said. I believe that when you hired us it was in good faith, that you thought there was a small conspiracy involved. Biniya slowly nodded. Turns out it wasn't so small. Yeah, I am very sorry, but you and your team should go. Biniya told him. You will be paid the full amount. As your client I am releasing you from out agreement. I'm afraid we can't go. Kakashi said. We came here to protect that little girl until the end of the festival. We will stay until that duty is complete. But I'm the client and I'm telling you to go. You're obviously being forced to. Orders made while under duress don't count. The mayor's jaw fell open. Don't you understand what will happen if you don't go? I've got a pretty good idea. Then why? Kakashi looked straight at the man with his single eye. To abandon your duty is not courageous, below the courageous there is nothing. These were the words of the former Hokage and my beloved sensei. That is the way of the shinobi. Biniya had no answer for that. In the end he turned around and went back. Shizuku was kneeling before the two fresh graves speaking prayers. Why are you praying for people who wanted to kill you? Naruto asked. All life is sacred to me, Nisan. I would pray for anyone who had passed that they would find peace in the next world. I'd let them rot in hell, it's what they deserve. Don't say that. Shizuku looked over to him. Please don't say such terrible things. Why not? It's the truth. Naruto said. They wanted to kill you, Shizuku, just to appease the earth spirits or kami or whatever. You didn't matter to them, they just wanted to murder you for their own selfish reasons. They don't deserve your prayers. You should hate them. No, she said. I would never hate them. Even if they did want to kill me I have already forgiven them. Why? Excuse me, why would you forgive them? In his mind he saw all those angry faces that had tormented him. He remembered the cruel words, the beatings, the threats. What he couldn't remember was a single person, not one, ever asking him for forgiveness. No one was ever sorry for hurting him or making him feel like a freak. I forgive them because it's the right thing to do, she answered simply. We're all human and we all need to be forgiven sometimes. No, you're wrong, Naruto shook his head vehemently. The people who hurt you don't deserve to be forgiven. They didn't make a mistake, they didn't come here yesterday by accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. People like that don't deserve any forgiveness. Naruto, do you say that because you are a ninja, or for another reason? I say it because I've had people hurt me all of my life. And it was because of something that was never my fault. If people have hurt you, Nisan, then you need to forgive them, as much for your sake as for theirs. Holding on to hate, keeping grudges, all that will do is blacken your heart. I'm a ninja, not a priest, Shizuku. You're human, Naruto, and you have a good heart. You care about me more than anyone else even though we've only just met. You wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't a good person. I don't want you to change because of hatred. Shizuku-chan, there are things you don't know about me, terrible things. I'm not as nice as you might think. I don't believe that, Nisan, she said with a gentle smile. I think you have a kind heart, but please don't let it become tainted. What if it's already tainted? He asked quietly. Then all you have to do is let go of your hates and the taint will disappear. You make it sound easy. It is easy, Nisan, she said. To forgive someone is the easiest thing there is. Maybe for you. He smiled and seemed to silently agree. As the sun went down, Kakashi gathered his team outside the shrine. It will happen tonight, he told them. If they come we won't be holding back, fight to the extreme limit and show no mercy no matter who your opponent may be. Why the change? Sasuke asked curiously. The odds are different, Kakashi said. Facing 100 we could afford to be more careful. If we really are up against thousands though we have no choice but to be ruthless if we want to survive. That's fine by me, Naruto said. Me too, Sasuke said, an eager smirk on his face. Me too, Sakura said. Her right shoulder was heavily bandaged and her right arm all but useless. But she was ready to fight and do her duty. They all were. I'm very proud of all three of you, Kakashi told them. No matter what happens tonight all of you have performed like true ninja. All three students stood just a little taller. Now one more thing, if you hear me give the order to retreat, or if I should be killed, I want all of you to get out and make it back to the village as fast as you can. But, no buts. If I go down or if I give you the order you run. That clear? Sasuke and Sakura nodded. What about Shizuku? Naruto asked. Shizuku has made her choice, we should respect it. I won't leave her behind, Naruto declared. I'll save her no matter what. Even if she doesn't want to be saved. That's right. Even if she ends up getting mad at me, I'll still save her. The door to the shrine was opened a crack and Shizuku was listening. It was nearly 10 p.m. They're coming, Naruto said. How many? Kakashi asked quietly. More than I can count, Naruto replied. Kakashi nodded. It was what he'd expected. Without ninja of their own, the only advantage their enemies really had was numbers. Naruto had made 200 cage bunchins and they were hidden in the trees all around. He, Sasuke, and Naruto would face them on the ground. Sakura was sitting up on the shrine roof with a huge pile of kunai given to her by Naruto's shadow clones. Given her condition, she would give the best service there. He had already chosen several powerful area effect jutsus that would cut a swath through any mass. If they wanted the girl, he would make them pay a very high price. But, if there really were tens of thousands and they really were ready to do whatever it took, he knew they couldn't stop them all. There were limits to what he could do with his chakra and what Naruto could do with shadow clones. Their best hope for success was that the crowd would break and run when they saw what they were up against. They were only civilians after all, few if any of them would be hardened to the sudden and brutal death they would see. If they really were willing to pay the price, though, stopping all of them would be like trying to stop the tide. Jibo had exaggerated a bit. Only about 1/6 of the people were a part of this. Which meant only 10,000 came out. They came silently all through the wood from every direction, surrounding them and cutting them off. Most of them were dressed up in yukatas or other fancy clothes. A few of them carried clubs and other weapons, but the majority seemed to be unarmed. There were men and women ranging from teenage years to grandparents. Their calm faces looked steady as they approached with a slow, certain pace out of the forest and on towards the shrine. They came to an abrupt halt about 50 yards away when a wave of kunai flew down at their feet, making a perfect circle around the shrine. That's far enough, Kakashi called out. Anyone who takes one step further dies. A slight murmur went through the crowd, but no one turned away. A single woman in a navy blue yukata spoke up. She had long black hair and brown eyes. I wish to speak to Shizuku, I am her mother. Mama. The door to the shrine opened and Shizuku ran out. Mama. Wait. Naruto grabbed her arm to keep her from running out to her mother. Nisan. Let me go. I want to be with Mama. Mama. You can't. Don't you get it? She wants to kill you too. Naruto glared at the woman. Isn't that right? You've come here to kill your own daughter. Don't say that. Mama loves me. She would never do that. Shizuku looked at her. Isn't that right, Mama? Tears slowly ran down the woman's face and she turned away, unable to bear looking at her only child. I'm so sorry. Mama, we drew lots, the woman said as she tried to choke back her tears. All the mothers with daughters the right age. I never wanted this for you, I love you, darling. Mama loves you with all her heart. You don't understand, the woman cried. No one here wants this. But it's for the good of the village. A couple people beside her put their arms around her and tried to comfort her. Nearby a small man stepped forward, the crowd parted around him. It is true, no one wants this. An old man with gray whiskers spoke. He wore a loose-fitting monk's robe and held a staff in one hand. But sadly it is necessary. Daisuke-sama. Shizuku called. Hello Shizuku, the man bowed his head to her. Shizuku, do you understand what is about to happen here? Excuse me, Kakashi called politely. Who are you? Me. I am just an old man. He is Daisuke-sama, Shizuku said. He was born here but spent 40 years traveling all over the world to gain knowledge. He came back 7 years ago at a time of crisis for the village. All the villagers say he brought us good fortune, that Kami showed us favor because he was a holy man. 7 years ago? Kakashi asked suspiciously. You mean right around the time the first priestess was killed? Daisuke nodded. Yes, for you see, along with spiritual matters I studied many other things as well during my travels. Including how to forge contracts with beings from other realms. Like earth spirits? Kakashi asked. Yes, exactly. Naruto let go of Shizuku's arm and glared at the monk. What the hell are you talking about? What has this got to do with anything? There are all sorts of powerful beings who while not of the earth have contact with it. With some you can make bargains. Kakashi said. For instance, I have a contract with the dogs. We made a pact by which some of them will come and serve me in exchange for some of my blood. The monk nodded. Animal summons are only one of the many types of beings who exist. There are also spirits of the earth, air, and water with great powers over those elements. When I returned here from my journeys, I found the village was dying. People were moving away and giving up on the farms their families had worked for generations. I knew I had to do something to save the village, and so I made a contract with an earth spirit. If we offered up the blood on an innocent and pure child, the lands of the village would be fertile and bountiful for the coming year. One innocent life in exchange for the prosperity and survival of your village. Is that such a bad bargain? It is for her. Naruto screamed. She had nothing to do with this. She didn't get a choice. She only gets her one life. Why should she have to sacrifice it for the rest of you? I thought a ninja would understand, Daisuke said. Wouldn't you give your life to protect your village? It's not the same. I chose to become a ninja. The very first lesson they teach you at the academy is that a ninja must be ready to die at any time. I've always known what might happen to me and I'm fine with it because I chose this. But what choice did you give her? Huh, her mother drew lots and so she has to die. Yeah, it's a great bargain for the rest of you. Why should she have to die for all of you when it's not even her choice? She has a choice now though, doesn't she? Daisuke asked. He turned his focus to her. You know what will happen now. The people here will try to fulfill the terms of the contract and the ninja will cut us down. I will die, your mother will die. Then more of us will come forward and be killed. How many hundreds, how many thousands will die? How much will the village suffer if we anger the earth spirit by breaking our contract? Is your life more precious? Will you allow all this bloodshed and suffering to happen for your sake? No, she said. No, I couldn't bear that. She reached into her pocket and took out the object that Naruto had given her. I suppose this is my karma. Naruto. He turned from the monk to look at the girl standing a few steps behind him. He froze. She was holding his kunai to her own throat. Shizuku, don't. Please forgive them, Naruto, and don't let this darken your heart. She gave him a sad smile. I really wish you could have been my Nisan. With both hands she slashed her throat, making the blood splurt. No. Naruto grabbed the kunai and threw it away, but it was too late. No. Why? They don't deserve this. He held her up with one arm and pressed a hand to her throat, trying to stem the flow of blood. She was looking at him and seemed unafraid. She reached up and patted his hand and smiled. He could do nothing but watch as the light left her eyes. She was a very brave child, Daisuke said. She will be missed. Naruto gently laid her down on the grass. Shut up. Kakashi gasped as he felt a demonic presence and immense power fill the air. His students and all the people in the crowd felt it as well, a terrible evil hovering above them. They however had no idea what the source of it was. Has the seal broken? Kakashi wondered. Naruto was surrounded by a red aura, demonic chakra so strong it was visible. He was close enough to see the transformation. His eyes were red, the scars on his cheeks had thickened, and his hands had become claws. I'm going to kill you. In matching actions to words, he dashed across the 50 yards separating him from the monk in the blink of an eye. Daisuke saw a demon's face and tried to cry for mercy. Naruto's fist struck his chest and went through his heart and then out his back. The old man fell over dead without even the chance to cry out. People screamed and the entire crowd panicked, terrified they were about to be killed next. Pushing and shoving, they got away from there as fast as they could. Naruto let them go. He was busy tearing apart the old monk's robes until he found what he was looking for. When he stood up, he noticed Kakashi and the others all staring at him. He could smell fear coming off all three of them, the strongest from Kakashi. That figures, I guess. He's the only one who knows what I am. Hey sensei, if you destroy a contract, that destroys the bargain too, right? Yes, it does. With a thought, the paper in his hands burst into flame. When that was done, he turned his head into the breeze. The night air reeked with delicious of terror. I'm going to kill every last one of them. Naruto, Kakashi said warily. I need you to calm down now. It's over. It's not over until they're all dead. Is that what she would have wanted? Kakashi asked. Given the power levels he was sensing right now, Kakashi wasn't at all sure he could stop Naruto. But if he was serious about massacring the villagers, he would have to try. Naruto looked over to where she was lying on the ground. To Kakashi's immense relief, he could feel the power and demonic presence fade away. As he watched, Naruto's transformation reversed and he became himself again. No, Naruto said. She would want me to forgive them and let them all live. Well, I'll let them live. I couldn't keep my promise. I am so sorry, Shizuku-chan. Something in Naruto died that night. From that time on he would never again open his heart. That's it for Darko Part 2. If you're enjoying this intense villain Naruto storyline, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below, is Naruto truly evil, or just finally done being the hero? See you in Part 3.